involves that humane AI pin that we talked about the other week and Rabbit R1 now. Because he put out a review this week of the Rabbit R1 and he called it barely reviewable. You know, it's this little box that you carry around in your pocket. You can ask it questions. You can navigate it with a scroll wheel, which was also one of his biggest complaints, where he found the scroll to be frustrating and time consuming, that it would be faster with a touchscreen. And it actually is a touchscreen, just with limited use. Or you could type on it as a touchscreen, but that's where the functionality started and ended. You know, a lot of the other criticisms he had about the R1 were similar to those of the humane AI pin, right? It often got things wrong. It had a bad battery life. It was missing basic features like alarms and calendars. It also only connected to a handful of popular apps. And while more are coming down the line, it's already been botching the few that it uses now, right? Screwing up people's DoorDash orders or playing the wrong song on Spotify. With all of this playing into a pattern in tech that he's found frustrating for consumers.
A lot of these tech companies are developing tech kind of backwards. Like, they're delivering such unfinished products that it actually makes them nearly impossible to review. Like, it feels like it used to just be make the thing and then put it on sale. Now it's like put it on sale and then deliver the half-baked thing and then iterate and make it better, and hopefully with enough updates then it's ready and it's what we promised way back when we first started selling it.
Right. MKBHD saying this happens with video games, with cars, but the AI assistant trend, it seems to be the apex of this problem.
The thing that you get at the beginning is like borderline non-functional compared to all the promises and all the features and all the things that it's supposed to maybe someday be.
And again, even though he was in no way the only person or reviewer bringing up all these concerns, people still decided to slam Marquez specifically for his negative review, with one person saying if MKBHD decided his initial videos were, quote, barely reviewable instead of posting and iterating, would he be where he is today? And including one of his very, very old videos, which I just have to say, this is one of the dumbest takes I've ever seen on the internet. Like, I hope you feel shame, but I doubt that you will, because you do not seem smart enough to even know how to spell the word shame. How are you comparing a guy, or really a kid, at the time he started posting videos for free to YouTube, to a company that is publicly selling a $200 product to consumers? A product that has almost been universally panned. These are not the same thing, you dumb donkey. Though a silver lining here is I am happy to see that I'm not the only one with this feeling. With plenty of people coming to Marquez's defense, saying things like, consumers are sick of rushed, half-baked products released early for the interest of investors. Good on him for consistently keeping it real. I mean, fuck. You even had people at Rabbit responding mostly very kindly to him, with one person saying his honest feedback is cool, but also defending the company by saying the industry is in the early stages and it has to move fast to keep things improving for customers. And the company's CEO thanking Marquez, saying they look forward to him potentially revisiting the product someday. Right? And as all of this was playing out, you also had a ton of people asking Rabbit why this device isn't just an app, arguing that it would just make more logistical and financial sense. And actually, with that, there are allegations that it functionally is, with a seeing Android Authority claiming Rabbit R1 seems to run Android under the hood, and the entire interface users interact with is powered by a single Android app. Also saying someone shared the device's launcher Android application package with the outlet, and with some tinkering, they were able to install it on an Android phone. And saying they were even able to ask it a question as though they were using the real Rabbit R1 hardware. Though notably, the outlet also said it didn't test any other functions and wouldn't be surprised if other tools didn't work. Though also with this, you had Rabbit shooting back to say the R1 is not an Android app, claiming this is just a misunderstanding and that Rabbit runs on the cloud with a very bespoke Android open source project and lower level firmware modifications. Whereas Tech Radar tried to translate, the R1's real juice is in the cloud rather than an on-device app. But, you know, with all this, I gotta pass the question off to you. What are your thoughts here? And then, so let's talk about what's become our daily update on the situation with pro-Palestine protests across the country, especially because there's just still so much to talk about. We'll start right here in Los Angeles, because this morning, police officers in riot gear cleared out the encampment at UCLA, reportedly tearing through barricades, pulling up tents, leading protesters away with their wrists zip-tied. California Highway Patrol ultimately saying that at least 132 people had been arrested. Right, and notably, this after we saw violence break out on the campus yesterday, when a masked pro-Israeli group assaulted a pro-Palestinian student camp, reportedly throwing objects including fireworks, a scooter, water bottles, and tear gas, as well as attacking 4 reporters for the school's newspaper. But with that, it should also be noted that Jewish Federation Los Angeles condemned the violence and said in a statement, the abhorrent actions of a few counter-protesters last night do not represent the Jewish community or our values, and saying that they believe in peaceful civic discourse. But to that point, we have many people saying that's exactly what's happening on the other side, right? With some critics of the protests pointing to the words or actions of a few individuals or groups to paint the whole movement in a bad light, or otherwise showcasing peaceful civic discourse as anti-Semitic if it's critical of Israel. Right, and that second point is basically what's at the heart of this debate over the proposed anti-Semitism awareness bill, which was actually just passed by the House of Representatives today. Though of course it would need to be passed by the Senate to become law. And if it does, it would require the Department of Education to use the definition of anti-Semitism put forward by the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance when enforcing federal anti-discrimination laws. But this, as many have concerns over that definition, especially because of the examples it provides that some say conflate Judaism with Zionism, with some even claiming that the definition definition was being weaponized against Israel's critics. Right? Basically, that's what the 70 Democrats who voted against the bill said. For example, you had Jerry Nadler acknowledging that criticism of Israel does sometimes take the form of anti-Semitism, but with that also arguing that the bill would make even legitimate criticism of Israel classifiable as anti-Semitic. And notably with that, 20 Republicans also voted against the bill. Their concerns were a bit different, right? With Matt Gaetz and Marjorie Taylor Greene, for example, opposing it because they say that some excerpts of the Bible would meet this bill's definition of anti-Semitism, making that argument by referring to a common anti-Semitic trope about Jews being responsible for the death of Jesus. And then, to just add his own style to it, you had Gaetz reiterating his claim that he wants to just abolish the Department of Education outright. With that said, let's jump back to the broader context, because obviously this bill being voted on in this precise moment, it's not a coincidence. It is a response to these protests. And in fact, you have the ACLU, which has opposed this bill, explicitly criticizing it for the fact that it will, quote, likely chill free speech of students on college campuses. And this is 1,800 people have been arrested on college and university campuses since April 18th, which also, I mean, we talked about the number 2 days ago, it was around 900 then, so it's doubled, with a big part of the increase there being attributable to the crackdown at Columbia. Though what a lot of people are talking about today is what's going on at UNC, because apparently there is going to be a rager to end all ragers sometime soon, with now more than $400,000 being raised in just a couple of days to throw a party for a bunch of guys who were said to have defended a U.S. flag during pro-Palestine protests at the campus on Tuesday. Right? And so what happened is that protesters lowered the American flag and replaced it with a Palestinian one, with this leading to police coming in, taking it down, and hoisting up another American flag while onlookers chanted USA. But soon enough, protesters tried to take that flag down too, and then these frat guys stepped in to hold the flag up and keep it from touching the ground, all while protesters were screaming and throwing water at them. And this whole situation leading to a guy by the name of John Noonan, who isn't affiliated with the fraternity or the university, being so inspired by these guys that he started a GoFundMe page, with him writing, quote, commie losers across the country have invaded college campuses to make dumb demands of weak university administrators. Help us raise funds to throw this frat the party they deserve, a party worthy of the boat-shoed proletariat who did their country proud. Though all of this playing out as a lot of people have taken issue with how much attention that specific story has gotten, right? With some sharing this video seeming to show a cop spitting on the Palestinian flag after it was taken down, and people writing things like, if you're more offended by a US flag being taken down at UNC than you are by a US-backed genocide, you aren't a serious person. Which actually, on that note, yes, this week there's been a lot of focus on the protests, but we should also make sure that we talk about what they are protesting, right? The war in Gaza. And on that front, we're seeing things like, for example, Secretary of State Antony Blinken being in Israel yesterday for what was described as one of the most serious rounds of negotiations between Israel and Hamas since the war began. But at the same time, you're seeing Netanyahu vowing to invade Rafah with or without a deal. And this is there are also reports that the International Criminal Court is preparing to issue arrest warrants for Netanyahu and other high-ranking Israeli officials for war crimes, with the Israeli government there reportedly asking for Biden's help, and some making threats that they'll retaliate against the Palestinian Authority if the warrants are issued. And this coming as there are reports of mass graves being found in Gaza. With all that said, I know that we hit on a lot of different things that are happening here, and of course, as always, I'd love to hear from you. And then, to those of you who are feeling the stress of mounting debt, I understand. I was there. That weight is not a joke. I know that pressure and that feeling of, well, helplessness. And if you're feeling that way, or you're feeling like your actions at reducing your debt, they're just not working. Today's sponsor, PDS Debt, has a program that rolls all of your payments into one low monthly payment. I'm talking about just one low monthly payment based on what you can afford. PDS Debt is a top-rated company on Google with an A+ rating on the BBB. They offer options that allow you to pay off your debt in a fraction of the time, saving thousands in interest and fees. Plus, everyone with over $10,000 or more in debt qualifies, and there's no minimum credit score required. And right now, they'll give you a free debt analysis. It only takes 30 seconds, so just head over to pdsdebt.com/DeFranco. You'll receive a full breakdown on how to save on interest each month and the quickest way to take care of your debt. Just go to pdsdebt.com/DeFranco and get your quick and easy debt assessment today. Because it's time to regain control of your life and live for you, not your debt. And then I'm starting to think that if we sent Boeing after bin Laden, we would have saved ourselves a lot of time. Because today we got the news that another Boeing whistleblower has died, with this one being Joshua Dean, a quality inspector for the Boeing supplier Spirit AeroSystems, with him notably blowing the whistle on manufacturing defects in the 737 MAX last year. And now we have his family announcing that he actually died from a sudden, unexpected, and fast-moving infection on Tuesday. And this, even though he was only 45 years old and was in good health and reportedly led a healthy lifestyle. And while you have a lot of people saying this feels a little bit like when Russian oligarchs like slip and fall out of windows, or they drink the wrong tea, it should 100% be noted that so far there is no evidence of any foul play here. With Dean's aunt telling the Seattle Times he became ill and went to the hospital because he was having trouble breathing just over 2 weeks ago. And while there, he was intubated, developed pneumonia, and then had an antibiotic-resistant staph infection known as MRSA. So his condition deteriorated rapidly rapidly after that, with him going on an ECMO machine, which circulates and oxygenates a patient's blood outside the body, taking over heart and lung function when organs don't work on their own. Next, he went on dialysis, and a CT scan indicated that he had suffered a stroke, according to his mom. And it got so bad that doctors were considering amputating both hands and feet. But obviously, before that could happen, he passed away. And to go back as far as what he blew the whistle on, it actually